Hey guys, welcome to another session of Epic 7. So all throughout the workday, obviously this video is coming in a bit late after my work hours. We're going to look at Setsuka's preview video. A couple things, this is going to be a blind viewing. The only things I have seen so far is what has been shown on Discord, which was repeating animated gifs of Setsuka licking some bells or balls, and a quick synopsis of potentially her lore. This is a shout out to Evan, who's part of my community, saying that her lore is something like a demon possessed her. She's a demon possessed whore, or SULT, and the water origin girl is trying to cleanse her. And I guess it probably has a hard time cleansing her. Either way, it sounds like a plot for an adult movie, to be honest. And I think the only other thing is that I did read the artifact, which seemingly pretty crazy. I'll talk about that when we get to there. But this is going to be a blind viewing. I'm also going to keep the video that Epic 7 has uploaded muted, just because, I mean, recently Epic 7, every time I want to review their videos with the audio, with the sound effects and stuff like that, I've been hit by like what do you call those, basically I just can't monetize the videos. So I'm like, and I get strikes and stuff, so I'm like, okay, why am I even risking this? So unfortunately, I think Epic 7, like, in my opinion, go back to what you guys were doing before. That'd be really nice, in my opinion. But anyways, let's keep going. So this is probably where you hear some of her voice lines. Oh, okay. So that both of those lines combined together, probably not in the same context, but it probably does sound sexual, like seductive. I'm imagining this is what you wanted, isn't it? Okay, I shouldn't do that. People are gonna freak out. Allow me to awaken your desires. So I mean, I think they did that on purpose. She's meant to be like a hypersexual symbol. Even in Moonlight Dreamblade she was. So take a look at this S3. Yeah, there's her licking the balls. And I'm actually surprised that S3 animation, the hand drawn portion of it, is really short. Oh, let me do a frame by frame here. So yeah, like we have a sprite animation, so the background fades out, your teammates fade out, and it was sprite. This is actually looking kind of like Chaos Nightmare, Zero Nightmare, actually. Looks like that character that they previewed a couple months ago. And then it's straight into licking balls. We don't even get a lot of time here on this shot, but it's straight here. And then she does have that kind of crazy look, the eyes, the blushing face, and then her just wanting to go like ding ding ding. Like there's a lot of obviously sexual overtones. Smogate's not hiding it for sure. This is okay, seemingly right away already cuts into this PNG sequence. So I mean I've talked about this multiple times. If you guys are regulars on my videos, you know that I talk about techniques, about the artwork, how they approach these S3 animations, how to make it cost effective. In other words, the harsher sounding word is cheap. How to make these S3 animations cheaper to make. And this is one of them. They would have just basically a very low quality image, as you can see. If you're watching this on like a computer or something with higher res on a full screen, you can see the pixelation around the lines. This means that they just scaled it up and their engine is not able to, I mean, you can't, unless something is vector, you can't scale up something infinitely and then expect like perfect lines or whatnot. So this is where they decide to cut the costs. Bit of that. That's kind of cool. There's the enemies on the other side. Usually the attacks do have some kind of connection to the enemy, whether it's an AoE or single target. So clearly this skill is an AoE because we see multiple enemies here. Yeah, as that blade is coming, boom. Okay, that's kind of cool. It's kind of cool overall. Okay, let's pause here. Let's talk about this. Artwork. I think they did a really good job of transferring the essence of her from the Moonlight Dreamblade, but also applying the art style, color, and lighting consistently with the other heroes. So if you don't believe me, of course, you take a look at Moonlight Dreamblade, the artifact art. It's somewhat rendered differently. Yes, it's like an anime girl, but if you look closely at the colors, at the post effects and stuff like that, it's a bit more fantasy, memory-esque, dreamlike. So they did a really good job of grounding her. Now she really feels like a pliable character, like you could touch her and stuff. She is a thief. Fire is not too surprising. If she's anything else, it'd be a bit more surprising because she's red. A maiden robbed of her gentle heart by a demon blade's curse. That sounds a lot more wholesome than the lore summary that that Evan that I quoted from. This sounds a lot less sexual, but I mean you could take it that way as well. Attack release is a attack. If she has a supporting role, she might be good there too. Otherwise, it's self crit or self attack, I'm assuming. Born of Livings or Shamans, countless generations served in period court of. Wow, whoa. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Epic 7 is definitely cooking. They're back on form, man. It's been like a full past year now where Epic 7 has kind of dropped that, what's it called? I can't focus. What's that word called? Man, I'm burnt. This is after work hours again. Drop the, like, there's a word for it. Someone will know. The censorship. Thank you. The censorship, and they're going like pretty balls out here. That's just pretty crazy. I found it funny that for this, like, they really had to, like, okay, this is funny, right? This is like, okay, we got to make her look a ball, right? So like if you're looking at this draft, yeah, sure, like maybe if you understood katanas or whatever, you wouldn't tell that's a bell. So for them, like, cause you, like in a storyboard like this, in like a sketch like this, like the most important thing is really, like, we need to get the main elements in, right? So she's holding a phallic object. We know it's a katana. But like, okay, she has to lick something that's ball-like, right? So yeah, arguably you could reverse this and go back and say, oh, that's a bell. But imagine we saw this like 3 months prior and we only saw a preview of this, right? I'm pretty sure people would probably still come to the conclusion of bell, because I think that bell plus that kind of ribbon thing, that's stair-steppy white ribbon, has to do with some kind of Japanese shaman, or at least we do see that kind of imagery in like the what's it called, those temples. So it's something to do with spiritual stuff. So for people who are more invested into that Japanese culture, you probably would have recognized it. But let's say you're very Western culture and you saw this, you're just like, okay, what is she licking there? But clearly, even from the storyboard, you know that it's supposed to be lewd, right? We do have a flash of full color here. So I guess, I don't know why. That feels kind of awkward. I guess for the animation's sake, the full color is supposed to be like kind of the pitch to sell to the higher ups, to the executives. It's like, oh, this is the shot that people are going to be focusing on, like right after that lick. That's interesting that I would say that the S3 animation here looks even somewhat better than that pixelated PNG version. Reminds me of Samurai Jack. It used to be a cartoon. Oh, this is nice. She was treated. Oh wait, did it continue saying the story and I didn't read it? No. She was treated as family's sole hope to retain Emperor's confidence. Yeah, the design is good. Definitely good. Why does that top left corner, there's that kind of kid-like sketch of her? I guess that's her closing to katana. But I feel like that's such a weird sketch to, like, a weird doodle to include here. But it's not that I don't like it, but like compared to that sketch on the right, it seems like, oh, this is a different pose. Look at her, she's pulling up her outfit or whatever. I think she's a must pull just for the waifu factor, to be honest, even before we get to the skills. Again, I think this is one of those like really good designs. She kind of reminds me of what's it called? Like up to this point, she kind of reminds me of like a Lua, but way hotter. You know what I mean? So when Blue Lua came out, I remember people were going crazy over her, and she wasn't even like super lewd. But she gives me that vibe, but like the lewd version, like the naughty version. Anyway, so let's see here. She is a Scorpio, so that is what's a Scorpio? Says it's not really meta anymore though, but people are familiar with Says. Spez is Scorpio. Yeah, a couple of really high attack damage dealers, 23 crit rate, And we don't see the self imprint yet. Did I miss it? Don't think I missed it. Hold on, let me preview the thumbnails here. I don't want to spoil anything. No, we haven't missed it yet. I guess it will talk about it. Ended up stricken with an unknown illness, which is probably that curse of the blade. I'm reading that lore right there. That is probably some kind of facial reaction. What is the? I want to see what the level 10 was. In desperation to cure her, her family performed a ritual using a demonic sword. Oh, okay. So that wasn't the illness. The illness is what caused them to make her demonic. Okay. Yeah, I mean this kind of trope is pretty classically used in stories, right? Like you're desperate for something, you sell your soul, and you end up regretting it. They're healing her. Ritual stripped her of her dignity. Well, what does that mean? And birthed a lady whose lips were profane with crude jokes. Wait, is that really where they're taking it? So PG. I do feel like stripping of her dignity could be like, yeah, she's selling her body or whatever. And birthed a lady whose lips were profane with crude jokes. Maybe there's more. At the end, Setsuka's bodyguard, Shizue, whisks her master away. And this is her. Yeah, you know what? I don't think we need her as a hero. That's my opinion. And takes off on a long journey to free the lady from her curse. Whoa, man, dude. Oh, I thought she was naked actually. I think this is the artifact art. Again, like I said, I did see a preview of this on Discord. The artifact like screenshot. Is it playing? Oh no. Hero introduction. Okay, here we go. Now we get to it. Oh wow, self-health? I'm actually kind of surprised. Alright, so either... Well, I think the artifact is something like if you counter, you have like a 40% chance, up to a 40% chance to S1 again or something. So perhaps they want her built as counter and bulky, so therefore the self-health is still good, but she's still an attack scaler. That's a pretty decent thief stat line then for that purpose. This is me guessing, okay? We'll have to see. She has a high attack, increased health, and concentration. It's probably devastating when she actually counters or something. Like her S1 is probably going to be OP, or the passive is going to make the S1 OP, or the S3 is going to set up so her S1 is really OP. Increase the evasion of all allies by 30%? What? 30%? How much is a cart? A cart is 15% plus the EE for 5%, right? So 30% is 100% to anyone who has 70%? No way. And when an ally, except for the caster, evades, when an ally, except for the caster evades counterattacks, when attacking, when fighting series is full, consumes all, granting Demon Blade Unleashed to the caster for 1 turn before activating Blade Art Bewitching Blossom. Consumes all health to attack all enemies and increase the combat range with the caster by 50%. Damage dealt increases proportionally to the caster's lost health. Blade Demon Unleash, unique effect. Sorry, I was quiet because I'm trying to understand this in my head. Increase attack by 200% and cannot die for a certain number of turns, but cannot be subject to damage sharing effects. Cannot be subject to damage sharing effects. Okay, the 2 possibilities, right, is that you can't put her in the front line for Lady of the Scales because the damage sharing effects doesn't apply, so it negates it. So the 70% Aureus or whatever from Lady of the Scales will be inactive if it's used on her here. Or the interpretation of this would be, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. I think it's what I just said. But it seems like such a small thing that only Lady of the Scales can make it happen, because there is no way. Or I guess those heroes, if they still exist, where like the front line, or if you're in the back line, you're taking damage for the team or something. Like that's the only way I'm thinking of how that wording makes sense. Otherwise, it would be the other way around, which would be like, let's say for example there is a Crow and the escort is active, obviously, and if you hit her, the damage sharing effects don't apply, which that wouldn't make sense. That's just like that's even more OP, right? So I almost feel like, because the language says increase the attack by 200% and cannot die for a certain number of turns, but cannot be subject to damage. That but sounds like it's the negative side of this OP buff, right? So I'm assuming it's to do with Lady of the Scales and potential future heroes that have that kind of like, what do you call it? Redirectional damage sharing. That's what I'm thinking right now. But let me read the whole thing. This is a packed passive, man. New Moon Luna and the other heroes that can seal are super important here, but increasing the evasion of all allies by 30%, so that herself, she would also have that 30%. If she's on an evading artifact, which would be at least 50%, but I don't think it matters, because I think she's meant to be getting Demon Blade Unleashed on purpose, and then she cannot die, therefore she does not even need to evade. That 30% evade might be annoying, and most likely, again, we'll see the skill is most likely her best in slot might still be her own artifact. But let's keep going instead of speculating. When an ally, except the caster, evades counterattacks. Now that's the part where I'm just like, wow, that's bonkers. You're pretty much guaranteeing anyone who evades counterattacks. And obviously, like the very easy one would be like, you know, like the red flan, afternoon soak flan rather. The new kid school kid Aiden. Those are like right now the best evasion heroes that are really, really scary, right? Like that's really crazy in my opinion. After attacking when the fighting spirit is full, consumes all, granting. After attacking when okay, so that's a separate thing. It has nothing to do with the evasion, right? So she will have fighting spirit, but after she attacks. If after an attack, if the fighting spirit is full, consumes all, granting demon blade for 1 turn, relation to the caster for 1 turn before activating blade art bewitching blossom. All right, so there's even more, right? Demon blade unleash will be well, we already talked about that, and blade art bewitching blossom consumes all health to attack all enemies, increasing combat range to cast by 50%. Damage dealt increases proportionally to the caster's lost health. She's like some kind of AoE one-shotter or something. Or the S3, the S3 might be the thing that charges her enough to get the... Oh, wait. Oh, gotcha. So it's not that, okay. When an ally accepts the caster evades counterattack. Okay, so it's the counterattack coming from her. Okay, my bad. I was thinking like it's like anybody who evades with her passive counterattacks. Like she's giving people counterattack while being at almost 100% evasion. That'd be too crazy. Okay, this makes a bit more sense. All right. So S1 probably does charge the fighting spirit, and that might be the primary one, I'm assuming. So am I playing or not? Yeah, I'm playing. Okay, that's crazy, man. So yeah, basically anybody who dodges, you counterattack, and then you might fill up that thing, and then afterwards it consumes. Okay, and so her S3 animation, the big animation is actually not an S3 animation. It's just an extra attack from the passive. Okay, that makes sense. That's pretty darn good damage. Still talking about the passive too. Unique effect. Throughout the duration, the bear cannot die, but also cannot be subject to damage sharing effects. So that's what I wanted to see. That's what I wanted to see actually play out, but they didn't showcase it. Maybe later they will. So skill 3 dispels all buffs from all enemies before inflicting Beguile, inflicting decreased hit chance for 2 turns. Ignores effect resistance of targets with less max health than the caster. Oh, that's a tricky one. How do I feel about this? You gain 30 fighting spirit though. Hold on. Let me look at the S2 again. How much fighting spirit do you start with? It doesn't say, at least not here. I'm gonna play the video just to see. Looks like it was pretty high, but it looks like the payroll was hit too, so probably it countered twice. So I'm assuming maybe 2 S1s is enough to fill it. Assuming that it probably starts at 50%. I mean, generally fighting spirit starts at 50. Yeah, so let me skip forward a bit. Yeah, how do I feel about this? So gain 30 fighting spirit. So S1 probably is gain 30 fighting spirit too. But just let's talk about the S3. Dispel all buffs from all enemies before inflicting Beguile. Inflicting decreased hit chance for 2 turns. Ignores effect resistance of targets with less max health than the caster. So that's like the incentive to build their IHP. But in my opinion, I don't feel like that's worth it. So I feel like the S3 no effect resistance of targets with less max health. Yeah, that feels kind of like not worth it. You'd probably one-shot doing the AoE on anything with less max health than the caster. And then for you to chase that max health, I mean, maybe the 200% attack and all that like additional damage, maybe that's enough to like make you lower the attack or crit damage. Because I mean, consume all the health. Is damage up proportional to the caster's lost health. So we're talking about, it's supposed to be massive damage, right? This whole phrase here, damage out increases proportion to the caster's max lost health, but that's a lot, right? Because she consumes all the health, and then increase the attack by 200. So that's where I'm just like, okay, that might be worth it then. Like maybe you can get that S3 off. But what about the debuffs of the S3? I don't know. We've had a couple Beguile heroes. I've never thought Beguile is actually as threatening as it is on paper. You know, like 10% is not nothing, but I don't think it does do too much. And then the fact that the other debuff is decreased hit chance, so blind. I mean, okay, the only thing that makes sense is obviously like you want to trip them up more in terms of trying to get people to evade. So it would be 30% evasion plus the hit chance. So everybody would be at 80% evasion, assuming they don't have any evasion passive or an evasion artifact. So then she will be able to counterattack more, right? With that that passive. I guess that's the way that she's supposed to be used here. It's only the Beguile part. I'm just like, you know? The blind makes sense for their kit. The effect resistance part, like the ignore resistance part, actually is really nice, I suppose. For like bulky heroes that don't have much resistance. But outside of that, I don't know how much HP you would be chasing on her just to get that effect. I personally don't think it's that worth it, but we'll see. Horizontal slash is the S1. Gains 30 fighting spirit, so I was right. So she's probably like 50% fighting spirit start, and then the 2 hits she did to demonstrate the S2 was eventually was 60. So obviously it trips it because you got 100% fighting spirit. But absorbs some of the damage dealt as health. Damage dealt increases proportion to caster's max health. Damage dealt increases proportion to max health. Oh, I see what you're doing. Okay, so they really want you to chase the health as well. 30% healing additional. Soul burn effect, which is 10, increases the damage dealt. Oh, so she is an HP scaler. Attacks the enemy with a sword proportional to the max health. That's such a weird. Okay, so her stat line works, right? Like for a thief, like 6.4, 6.5k HP. Like, yeah, you could build them bulky. Like, remember Green Violet days? I think Green Violet is also Scorpio, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it can work. Moonlight Dreamblade was needed on Violet to get that extra attack, but the 200% attack kind of makes sense, I guess. I think ideally you would probably want someone to like if you can attack, give her an attack buff as well. That'd be super crazy. And honestly, the passive. So okay, now with the whole kit, I think the passive now is even more important to dissect. Let me go back here. Counterattacks, and it's 30 per counterattack. 30 per S1. Consumes all for 1 turn before activating. Demon Blade Unleashed for 1 turn before activating Blade Art. Bewitching Blossom. Okay, you know what? Okay. So I think her role, honestly, like in a world arena, she's gonna be like a solo carry. So this is how I see her being really good. Right now, okay, increase attack by 200% is not nothing. You can probably have decent attack and really good HP, and that 200% is gonna boost it a ton. Given the fact that an attack buff is 50%, 200% will give her like a near greater attack buff level at like a 200, like a 2.5k attack, which is a lot. Again, but the damage scaling from the S1 is HP scaling. That being said, I don't do data mine stuff anymore, but that being said, when the data mine comes out, it will probably be like a decent attack scaling still. Like, so you want both to, like, kind of like an Edward Elric. Both were actually really good. Eventually people just went with the HP because the HP was still doing more of the pulling in terms of damage. But the attack, of course, did matter. It's just that you couldn't spare the stats. For her, because realistically, you don't need to build her with a lot of stuff. I think Western Fighting Spirit is full as 50% CR, so there's gonna be a debate on like whether you should even have speed on her or not. You know what I mean? Like she could literally be another HP boot. I probably think that it won't be worth it to get attack. So here's how I think that she'll really work. Outside of people like trying to cleave you, and honestly, she could be a decent cleave deterrent too. Just with the 30%, just with the passive, it's actually pretty good. But the thing is, like, she's still killable until you get your fighting spirit full. So realistically, you want your teammates to start evading. So packing more evasion heroes on her side is gonna benefit you in the long run. But I think what she's designed for is honestly like a team on the right, maybe not the Rinnak as much, but the team on the right, which is like a lot of arena defenses are like using bulk as their primary way of surviving because it's really annoying to kill, right? But in terms of the team on the right, theoretically it's like a low damage team. Like I'm putting that in air quotes. Every defense generally is quote unquote a low damage team. They're only a high damage team because the team you bring into it, if you're cleaving, has such low health that these become a high damage hero, like an Arunka or whatever, right? But realistically, they're doing again, like the standards have changed. I would call it lower damage compared to like a Janua that we have access to now, or like a pirate, the Afternoon Soak Flan. Those type of heroes now, in my opinion, are like the new damage dealers. The Summer Hua as well. Like those are examples, and Strays of course being pretty meta for arena cleaving. Those are where the damage numbers are now, right? Recently my community got me to actually build out MLTU. I didn't even know how powerful he was. given that he does need like a team to really make him good, like he was doing like 40,000 damage, like S1 onto someone who wasn't death broken, and like 80 something damage with death broken. So when I say like Setsuka is like good into like low damage, don't get me wrong, all right? That team on the right side can still do a lot of damage, but like comparatively, what we call damage dealers now honestly needs to be what I just said, like 30,000, 40,000, all the way to like 100,000 damage. Like that's a real damage dealer now. So I feel like what she brings to the table is you can go pretty bulky, pretty safe, and fingers crossed, your team starts evading a lot, she's gonna go ham. And now I really see what her artifact is really for. That artifact, if it procs twice, you're gaining half of your fighting spirit that you lost, right? So that's actually pretty incredible. Yeah, I can see why the dark Para is used here, because you get that evasion for the rest of your team. That's just like super good, right? Evasion buff, AoE, like who wouldn't want that? So again, here, Lethal Whispers, even the most steadfast bodyguard falters before the latest dangerous whispers. Yeah, she's definitely, I mean, the reading of this definitely is leaning her towards that more inappropriate side. The bodyguard has no doubt in her mind. The bodyguard has no doubt in her mind that this is all because of the demon's influence. Oh right, she's an artifact. Oh sorry, she's a bodyguard. The Water's Origin girl. Let's look at the max. Increase evasion by 20%, so that's good for her already. That gives her 50% innate. After counterattacking, when the target is still alive, has a 40% chance to activate a basic skill once more. So if you trigger that 40%, you get 60 fighting spirit, and then you recycle again. So there is a case, because even though that buff is like for one turn or whatever, there is a case where she can survive for like way longer. And of course, counting that the S1 does heal on the S1, I think realistically it's like setting her up again with full health. So I think she's going to be annoying to fight. But if Seal is gone, I would say she's completely useless. She relies on her passive way too much. The S3 isn't even that good. Like I said, like, yeah, you're gonna evade, but if you seal her, no one gets that evasion. They don't get the 30% evasion. So the S3 is not that good. The S1 kind of sucks without the S2. So if she's sealed, she's completely useless, even though arguably most heroes are that way. That's why New Moon Luna is still pretty darn OP. But in this case, this artifact is pretty darn cool. For her skills. So the counterattacking when the target is still alive, I think this is offsetting it that it's not gonna run like a Dust Devil. So if Dust Devil procs on a thief, let's say for example, who uses Dust Devil right now? Let's say back in the old days, ML Celine. If she procs Dust Devil, if you kill one target, that proc will still go off, so it will go into another target at random, albeit, but still it will go into another target. So I think this one is trying to make it like nerfing it a bit by saying that the target has to be alive for this to actually proc, which in my opinion is fair, because if this is used on her, it's Omega broken. If she could just proc into other things, you know what I mean? So I think that's really good for balancing wise. At least a good start. Maybe in the future we'll find out this artifact is not good enough and they'll buff it anyway. Who knows? But I did think about this as well. It's like I think this could be decent for like a counter BBK. So hear me out. Like BBK, even counter that S1 does a ton of damage. Now again, that one hit would full heal her. So even if she gets the second hit in, it probably wouldn't be as devastating as her when she has like 1 HP, right? We're talking about BBK right now. But the evasion is also nice. I mean, I've had clutch moments where Shepherd of the Hollow, just because it's that 20% evasion, evaded some kind of hit that would debuff me, but I dodged it, even though like my BBK obviously is not even, it doesn't even have immunity. So that kind of clutch really does change things, especially if it's like it just needs like a one tap from like a Soul Weaver, but the evasion gets on and then she gets a turn. Yeah, so I can imagine this being decent for BBK. Now, because Setsuka is not a limited hero, at least I'm assuming, maybe she is, so we'll keep watching this. But if she's not a limited hero, I don't know if hamming on her artifact is necessary. I think having her at triple S and getting that HP is super good, but only if you have the means to do it. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend it for anyone who is free to play. I think just having her is enough. Let me see here. Drop rate banner. Yeah, so she's not a limited. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at this combat demo. Take a look at what happens here, right? So it probably hits. I did miss, so she counters. Yes, that's where that. Oh, what? She sets at 0 fighting spirit? Wait, okay, never mind. So I take that back. Sets at 0 fighting spirit. What? In my opinion, 0 fighting spirit is pretty bad as a start, but I guess it would be too OP if it was. Was even at 50%. So that means when they previewed the S2, she had already gone off a couple turns. Like she had to have had the S3 out. Right, I think we did see Bigal. Yeah, and I would say definitely say like it's not gimmicky. Like you see when we see a cart, we somehow think like, oh, it's evasion gimmick, right? But I think she brings enough to the table that it's not a gimmick. Yeah, she needs to proc. Oh, that's so bad. Wait, what? 30%? Does that look like 30% fighting spirit to you guys? Comment down below. Is there an artifact or something that can reduce resource? Does Renak reduce resource? Why does this feel like it charges so slow? Maybe I read the S1 wrong. Maybe it's not 30% fighting spirit. Okay, in my opinion, she's kind of slow. Yeah, I would say she's like a decent carry. But like a team focused support carry. Let me see that damage. Like I'm looking at the damage in proportion to what damage she's doing right now without that, right? So like here. So that's like a 3.8k. And then now we have this Demon Blade thing unleashed. 21k. Wait, and then also, hold on, let me see here. I just want to see the effect stack. Now, we did read it, but it's also important for me to see it. Did she get that icon before the damage was done? Like, get the buff? So, in terms of the 200% attack? I think that's how it works, right? Like, as soon as it triggers, I think it happens. It's not like it says after the attack. Yeah, so she has it, right? So we saw that icon flash right here. She had that. So at that point, that damage. What is that 23,000? Hold on. Back up just a bit. Where did that 23,000 come from? Oh, that's her. Okay, that's her own damage to herself. Okay, perfect. All right, so yes, as soon as she does that, right here, this attack is that 200% attack multiple, 200% attack buff. Yeah, so that's not nothing, right? But the S3 or the S2 is not HP scaling. That's the interesting part. So in a way, she kind of reminds me of Abyssal Yufine, where on the Abyssal mode or whatever, where she has full fighting spirit, she swaps the stats. Now here, she doesn't really swap the stats, but the stats that are doing the damage is technically swapped. But just not doing the same thing. Now, how do I feel about that? Now that I connected this to kind of AU Fiend, I do feel kind of like it's like a cheap design. Like it doesn't feel like it's unique. Yeah, you give her like a pretty darn annoying passive, but I don't feel it's that unique anymore. Let me know what you guys think as I'm watching this as well. Yeah, I mean, I think she's definitely worth pulling. I could definitely see that for turn 2 players, she will have a place. I kind of hope to see her in E7WC, but I don't think so. I don't think we're not gonna make it. We're not gonna make it. Next week we're gonna have E7WC and she won't be in the pool, but I think she's gonna be interesting. I feel on paper she has a lot. I feel like there's something lacking. The issue with me is I think the fighting spirit gains is way too slow. right? Like that's my opinion. I think having her with she's really good damage, but it's kind of like AU Fiend. So AU Fiend for me, it's like if she has Elbrus, she's kind of scary to keep proccing, right? But realistically, everybody's really fearing that S3. So I feel like she's giving me that same vibe, which is it takes time to scale up. And then the fact that they need you to chase health, and then she's attacking passively if other people are being evading. And I'm assuming. Let me take a look again. The passive is the one that needs to be figured out the most. So here's my issue. She won't counterattack if people go for her only. Yeah, so like as I'm reading this, I was like, wow, man, she's broken or whatever. But now I'm thinking like in reality, if they have enough S1 like single target or even single target S3s, there's nothing stopping her. And then you see that in the combat demo that they had to do A cart, Hera, and then FCC. If you have that much support just for her, I'm not sure if she's worth it. So what I was gonna say is, let's not talk about World Arena because I think getting that perfect draft is just impossible. But let's say, for example, like an arena offense and maybe even Guild War offense, where you could use her and then Afternoon Soak Flan and then have like one support. And I suppose that could kind of work. What I'm really trying to get to is that I feel like Setsuka feels like she's a really good damage dealer, right? I think good enough. Really annoying to kill. If you're like you're kind of wasting turns into her. I guess that's the benefit. She could be a damage sponge. But in reality, she is not going to be a primary damage dealer. So kind of like what we see in the E7WC, I think with the AU Fiend kind of be an anchor, but she's there and people are tiptoeing around her like very well. And then sometimes you see her pop off, sometimes you don't, and most of the time you don't. So in World Arena, I think she's gonna have that struggle, unless they're locking themselves to a lot of AOE. But even those who lock themselves to a lot of AOE, something like a New Kid Aiden standalone is already super scary. Because she does so much damage herself. She doesn't even need someone like Setsuka to help her. So I feel like Setsuka, the artifact is interesting, probably worth pulling. Her hero is interesting on paper, but I think as the complete kit, I'm not liking the S3 Beguile. I'm not liking that S1 Fighting Spirit, just not gaining a lot, man. That's really gained. What? Really? 30 Fighting Spirit? 30 Fighting Spirit? I don't know, man. I think there's something wrong. This is like a typo, and Smilegate might even address it. Or that's just not right. It doesn't feel right. 30 Fighting Spirit, we're kind of used to it. Assuming Fighting Spirit is at 100, right? And she's not like got like a 500 Fighting Spirit bar that she needs to fill. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. The S1 just doesn't add up to the demo. The S3 did kind of add up though. Like when I saw the S3, it was pretty big, but is that 30%? I feel like that needs to be either, if that's an error, that just needs to be corrected. If it's not an error, I think they need to be more clear about that. Like Fighting Spirit, like people could have different amounts of Fighting Spirit, you know? Because that looks like a 10 Fighting Spirit. That's 2 gauges out of a 10. That gauge, that Fighting Spirit gauge has 10 notches. So you're gaining 10% of it. It doesn't matter what you're saying, it's 10%. If you call it 30, sure, but it's 10% of it. So what? She has a 300 gauge Fighting Spirit? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Maybe I'm off. Maybe I didn't see something. Anyways, I'm going to end this here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this diagnosis. If you guys want to see more of this kind of stuff, definitely let me know in the comments down below. I didn't want to do this. I feel like a fresh look at it could be an interesting reaction video, but obviously it goes on a bit longer. So anyways, if you have watched this, appreciate the view. If you have not subscribed and you want to subscribe and support this channel, definitely consider that. Otherwise, check out the Discord server and we could chat there. I'll end this here. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.